one is really about building the future of Mac Hall. So this building is getting old, and we want to make sure that it's taken care of, and that we as students can continue to benefit from having a student center all to ourselves. Second, it's really about advancing our programs and our services, reevaluating our current services and our programs like the dental plan, health and dental plan, make sure that we can continue to enjoy those services and continue to benefit from that. But also looking at new services as well, adding to our repertoire of resources. Lastly, my last point is really about getting students engaged with the Students' Union. Although we have really cool events like Pet Therapy and Muffin Talks, I want students to be more involved in other areas, such as the organizational side of things, such as the student at-large positions, making sure that those are accessible, but also well advertised to our students so that they can really gain something from these experiences. And yeah, if you support these points, I'd really appreciate if I could have your support and your vote. But if not, please get out there and vote anyways. And remember, it's got to be KD. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. Next, we'll move on to Brianna Stelkup, whenever you're ready.
Okay, my name is Brianna Stelkup. Some people call me BS. I'm kidding. Nobody calls me that. I'm running for Operations Finance for the second time this year. I took the criticisms I got last year to heart, and I grew a lot this year. I got more involved this year, and I really think I'm better prepared. My platform has 4 points. The first is the JLC, the Joint Liaison Committee. I see this as a wonderful opportunity to set a new foundation for what our relationship with the university is going to look like. My top 3 priorities are deferred maintenance, study spaces, and Mac Hall renovations. I also see this as a great opportunity to set the new bar for our level of advocacy through for the foreseeable future. My second point is the health and dental plan. I want to continue Ryan's work. I want to build upon it, and I want to find a way to allocate the funds that meet student needs and stay within our budget, hopefully. My third point is the travel and conference budget. It's very simple. I want to increase it. My fourth point is to improve the image and the awareness of the SU. Every year this is mentioned in the strategic plan, and I think I have a few ways that we can accomplish this. I would like to replace Color Night with an event that invites students at large to participate in the celebrations. I would like to hold regular office hours so I can be of assistance however students see fit. And I will also never support the decision to increase the financial burden that students bear. Every single one of my platform points has one thing in common, and that's I'm prioritizing students.
All right, thank you so much, Brianna. Next, we'll move on to Rio Valencerino. Rio Valencerina, I'm sorry.
I'm just going to mention you got it right the first time, so you were good. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rio Valencerina. I have been chair and deputy chair of SLC for the past 3 years. It's been a great experience. I'd like to take my experience doing that into the role of VP Operations and Finance. My platform breaks down into 3 major points. The first is beginning review and consultation for renovation to Mac Hall. I love the R, like favorite letter. The second platform point is actually reviewing funding to many of our major services, including travel and events funding, the campus food bank, and health and dental plan, as like my colleagues have mentioned here. And my third platform point actually involves improving our governance structures within the SU. I would like to increase student voice on the council and also start to incorporate Indigenous perspectives on SLC. Going bit by bit, for the first one, renovation and review and renovation will require a lot of consultation with the university and the Joint Liaison Committee. That will be an ongoing project for those next few years. Point number 2, the campus food bank has run out of food for the past, well, food and money for the past couple of years and has been depending on its reserve fund. That's an issue we need to address, and we also have similar issues in other programs. And the last one, which is my passion because I love policy, is replacing the acclimation rules that we have right now and also beginning to incorporate Indigenous perspectives through an Elders and Residents program, Indigenous representatives, or even through an Indigenous working group on campus. Those are my main goals, and I ask you all to keep it Rio when you go to vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rio. So this takes us into our next section of the moderator questions. So each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each questions asked. And yeah, there will be about 5 questions. So the first question, now that the Mac Hall dispute has been resolved, how do you intend to work with the university as the SU begins to manage the McEwen building? We'll start with Brianna.
Great question, Ryan. So my principle for working with the university is that I believe in diplomacy and I believe in professionalism, but more than anything, I do believe in the students. I think it was sort of a lack of advocacy that possibly got us in the situation in the first place, and I don't want anything like that to happen again. So I would just focus on keeping students as my #1 priority.
Perfect. Next, we'll go to Rio.
Thank you, Ryan. Working with the university, I think it's worth developing a stronger partnership now that we are the managers of the building. They are still owners, so we do have to deal with stuff like the Joint Liaison Committee, where everything has to be done collaboratively. So that is my goal of working with the university, is just create more of a partnership.
Saying that, and of course, we're all paying to be here, so let's get the most out of it.
All right, and Rio.
Thank you. I agree sort of with Mr. Dang. Committees are rather important, so I'd say the governance structure within the SU is the most important part of the operations and finance portfolio. So kind of building the bylaws and policies to reflect that is a very important part.
Perfect. Our next question is, which SLC committee are you most looking forward to chairing? I'll start with Brianna.
I would say definitely the Refugee Student Board. Would you count that as a committee?
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. It's a group that the VP Operations and Finance chairs. So
It's something that I absolutely have pretty much zero experience in, but I fully support it, and I'd love to see where we can take it and where it's going currently.
thank you, Rio.
My favorite committee has to be Policy Development and Review Committee, or PDRC. I have been on it for 3 years, so I have a lot of experience there, and I've seen a lot of what can be done with it. Like through PDRC, we've drafted the Code of Conduct and other policies that we're currently reviewing, or even done bylaw reviews. So I'd say it's a very important one, and it's my favorite.
Perfect. And Kevin?
Yeah, I think for me, I'd actually have to agree with Brianna. It's the refugee student board. I remember this summer I got to be involved in that process a bit, like going to the airport, picking up that student, and just seeing the faces of the families and the student themselves and how happy they are to have this opportunity was, for me, very rewarding. And to see all that work that goes behind it, I think I'd really enjoy that. So thank you.
Perfect. All right. So this brings us to our last question for the moderator's questions. So the VP Operations and Finance position is often joked about as the VP who sits around and signs checks all day. Please explain why this is not true and how you would explain the value of your position to students and those who
Say boards on campus, including the Tri-Media. We also deal with Haskell Student Levy Committee and student legal assistance. We oversee many of the operations and the businesses of the SU. Dealing with government structures and stuff like that is also not just signing checks and helping to develop the policies and appoint new people to the council through nominations committee, or even bring students onto campus through the refugee student board, is more than signing checks, and that's, I think, the best way to explain it.
Perfect. Thank you, Rio. And we'll go over to Kevin.
Okay, thanks. So I think, yes, signing checks is important, and the financial side is obviously half of the role because it's in the name. But again, there's the operational side of things too. Like, we have committees to take care of. With building management returning back to students, that's another piece of the role as well. That's quite new. And yeah, like, as much as developing policy is really important, we have to base those changes and those policies on our research and consulting with students. So there's that side of it as well that I think a lot of people ignore, how much you actually have to get input and incorporate the student voice into our policies as well, and the governance side of things. Thanks.
Thank you. And now Brianna.
The entire reason I ran for VP Operations and Finance is because I firmly believe it is the backbone of the executives. Not to say that it's better, but you are the channel which so many executives and staff must go through to accomplish the things they want, and I think that's a pretty big role.
All right, so that concludes our moderator questions. We're going to move into our speed round now. So the speed round consists of 3 questions. The first candidate to raise their hand gets the answer. If you answer incorrectly, then it will go to the other candidates. I'll get Hillary in our front row to keep an eye on who raises their hand first for me. So our first question is, name one SU program overseen by the Vice President Operations and Finance. Rio?
So, as we have mentioned many times today, the health and dental plan is overseen by the VP OpFi.
Perfect. What are some other programs that are overseen by the VP Operations and Finance? We'll go to Kevin. Yeah.
So just any program, right?
Yeah, any
Okay.
program.
Refugee student program.
Okay. Brianna?
Policy Development and Review Committee.
Yeah. So yeah, the acceptable answers were Traveling Conference Fund, Health and Dental, the Super Work Program, and the Student Hardship Assistance Fund. Those are like the major programs the VP OpFi oversees, but they also sit on committees and chair committees too. So I'd accept that as well. Our next question is a little bit more difficult. Can you name all 6 of the SU's businesses? Brianna.
The Din and Black Lounge, Found and Copied, the store, McEwen Conference and Events, the ballroom. Is that 6?
You're close. Can anyone get the ones that she was missing?
I remember one of them. Does that count?
Yeah, well,
I remember one of the 2 that she was missing. That was La Taqueria. So,
yeah. All right, and the one that was missing was Mac Hall Concerts.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that the ballroom?
Well, the ballroom is overseen by McEwen Conference and Events, so you kind of said the same one twice, but it works.
All right.
And then our third question is, name 2 university committees or boards the VP OpFi sits on. Kevin?
Yeah, so definitely the campus working group. And second one, can I say new ones or the ones that you're doing now?
Sorry, what was your... Yeah, you can,
Any
whatever.
board.
The two university committees or boards the VP OpFi sits on.
I'll say joint liaison committee because it's new.
Yeah. Is there any other ones that anybody wants to say? So the VP OpFi actually sits on all three Trimedia boards, the Beverage Management Oversight Committee, the Active Living and Athletics Committee, and the Risk and Harm Reduction Subcommittee. All right, so that concludes our second round. Now we're going to move into our lightning round with the paddles. So each of our candidates has paddles. One side's green, one side's red. And I'm going to ask a series of true or false questions. So red will be false and green is true. So is this statement correct? Over 70% of the SU's revenues come from student fees. And the answer is false. Revenue is generated through student fees, which is 11% of the SU's budget. Lease revenue from tenants in the food court and Mac Hall is 15%, and the SU-owned businesses in other areas is 74%. So a follow-up question to that, and this is for your hands. So like to answer the question, what is the SU's general fee? Rio?
$35 a semester, if I remember. Oh wait, 55. Boom. Yeah, 55.
So the SU's general fee is $32.50 for full-time students.
35 was a better answer. I changed my answer back.
Yeah.
I changed my answer back. 35 is closer.
All right, so our next question is, and get your paddles ready. So true or false, the Stakeholder Rights Agreement, SRA, grants the SU rights, including the rights to manage Mac Hall, occupy our current space within the building, and run our businesses. Perfect, yeah, you're all right, it was true. Can a candidate name the other agreement that the SU signed this year? I saw Kevin first.
Management and Use of Space Agreement, or MUSA.
Perfect, that's correct. And then our next question, true or false, does the SU generate a profit from Bermuda Shorts Day? That is also correct. The SU does not generate a profit from Bermuda Shorts Day. In 2016, it was reported that BSD runs a loss of about $70,000. So next, we're going to move on to our audience questions. So I'll ask a couple more questions, but if anybody from our audience would like to say anything to our candidates or ask anything, please feel free to step up to our microphone. So my first question for you guys is, if you could pick one platform point from each of your opponents to take on yourself, which would you choose and why? And I think we're going to be starting with Kevin.
Okay. Let's see. So, from anybody. Okay, I think on Brianna's platform, I really like her comment about travel and conference and event funding as well. I think it's a resource that's heavily used. Yeah, I think that'd be something I'd like to take on.
Okay. Brianna?
Just from one of them or one from each?
Just from one of them. Yeah.
I think I would take on Kevin's cannabis working group because it's very early in the works and there's a lot to be seen with it.
Okay. And Rio?
I'd have to agree with Brianna. I would take Kevin's cannabis working group point, but it is something definitely worth addressing. So,
Perfect. If there aren't any audience questions yet, I'll ask another question. What is your favorite piece of SU policy, why? And conversely, what is your least favorite piece of SU policy, and how would you intend to change it? And we'll start with Brianna.
I don't have an answer right now.
Okay. Rio?
does the bylaw count as a policy?
So the overarching bylaw?
Yeah, I'd say that's my most favorite. It's definitely like the most comprehensive.
Okay. And if you had one piece to improve?
Oh, my least favorite is the SLC complaint procedure. I have very many strong opinions on that one. So.
And how would you improve it?
Well, there are a lot of problems, like evidence rules are absent from SLC complaint procedure, so, and also we kind of, in working with the complaint procedure as speaker, you need to prove both that the action happened and that it intended to harm somebody, which creates an extremely high bar for really an administrative tribunal, which is odd. So that's how I would adjust that, is the evidence rules mostly.
Okay. And now we'll move on to Kevin.
Yeah, so I think I'll start with my favorite, in the spirit of election policy. And then I think for something I'd like to improve, it'd actually be the policy and procedure around nominations committee and process of how we handle vacancies, and how I would change it, right?
Yeah.
I think the subcommittee is not necessarily like needed, so potentially changing that to just a streamlined policy and that procedure.
Okay, perfect. We can move on to another question if there. Oh, okay. There are some audience questions. Okay. Yes. Please state your name, and then you can ask your question.
All right, my name is Hillary, and I'm just wondering which executive which executive position you're most looking forward to working with, and why.
Did everyone hear that all right? Yeah. Perfect. We'll start with Rio.
I'd say the one I'm most excited to work with would be the president. There's a lot of overlap between two portfolios with like facilities management and governance stuff. So, sorry, Hillary.
Okay. We'll go over to Kevin now.
Okay. Yeah, I have to agree with you. It would definitely be the president just because of that overlap, and of course the opportunity with JLC, or Joint Liaison Committee. But Hillary, because you did ask that, I would love to do the radio show. So yeah.
And Brianna.
Hands down, student life.
All right. Thank you. Next question.
I think you just lost that one, Rio. Good job, Hillary, on that question. It has to be student life. I'm kidding. My name is Shresh, and I just want to ask you guys, in the past, VP OpFi has tried to maintain transparency, but knowing how the SU works and how secretive it is, most students at large haven't got access to anything at all. How would you promote transparency in the future coming year to students who actually care and want to get involved?
All right. And we'll start with Kevin on this one.
Yeah, and I think that just to comment on that, it's kind of integrated in parts of my platform. I think one of the reasons why I want to get more students involved and have those opportunities more available to students is, for one reason, transparency, but also that consultation piece as well. I want students' feedback on certain things, and I think by doing that, we can help make our information a little more available to students. Yeah.
All right. Brianna?
I would definitely say transparency is heavily fitted throughout my entire platform. And my idea for transparency is to reach out to the students who aren't already currently engaged with the SU. I think that's the untapped market that we really need to be reaching out to because that's the majority.
All right. And Rio?
So similarly, transparency is part of my platform and the governance point down there. How we could improve it, however, is a bit of a problem. I'll use the financial statements we publish as an example. The full financial statement is an 80-page document with a few graphics at the bottom. It makes it easier to see, but at the same time, having to scroll through 80 pages is a bit of an annoyance. So it's addressing stuff like that where we can clearly just take some of that information, condense it, and publish it, and other parts where we can just present it easily. Also, the yes/no vote thing is kind of my pet. We can clearly get people better.
All right. We'll move on to our next audience question.
Hi, my name's Tina, and I'm wondering if you were to add an additional SU business, what would it be and why?
If you could add an SU business, what would it be and why? We will start with Brianna on this one.
I would like to sort of bring back an SU business. It wasn't technically a business, but the My Market Flea Market I think was a wonderful idea to give student artists and student farmers and students an opportunity to sell their own goods within our own community. So I'd bring that flea market back.
Okay. Rio?
I've joked about this in the office a little bit, but we could make a cannabis dispensary and call it SA, but that is absolutely not an option. So if I had to make another business, though, I would say we could definitely make another food business, something like the taqueria, but definitely not Mexican street food. So.
And Kevin?
Yeah, actually, this is addressed in my platform as well. Although it might not be a business, I'd really love to implement a service similar to what the Leftovers program is. So using, leftover food from different events, or in our case, a CUNE conference and events, or one of our businesses, to really address food insecurity for students. We're always hungry, so why not address it, right?
Awesome. We'll move on to our next audience question.
Hello, everyone. So being operations and finance 2 years ago was oh, sorry, I'm Brandon Cave. Being VP OpFi 2 years ago was absolutely fantastic. It was a great opportunity, and it was a major inspiration for why I stuck around with the SU for another year. So what I would like to hear from you is a two-part question. One is, what are you most excited for? What excites you about the potential of being the VP OpFi? And what's your vision for the role during your year?
Perfect. So a two-part question. We'll start with Rio.
So to answer your first part, the part I'm most excited about, excuse me, didn't get any sleep last night, life was awesome. Part I'm most excited about is definitely being the managers of Mac Hall once again. We have a lot of new opportunities here, and it's like, we can definitely act on those now without so much trouble from the university. My vision for the role, though, is to continue to develop the resources that we have and just improve the ones that we have. So it's nothing new or revolutionary, but it's definitely just building up on the foundations.
All right, we'll go over to Kevin.
Okay. So first part, the thing that I'm most excited about is the opportunity. Like, because we now have building management, the whole dispute has been finished. Like, we have a golden opportunity to really take advantage of that and build off of the work that's been done. We've never had the opportunity to manage this whole building, and I think that's huge for students. And so the second part was vision. I think just like developing really strong good working relationships with our university admin, and making sure that we have those good connections and keep them maintained as well. They're great now, but I think we can continue to add on, and that's my vision for it. So.
Okay, perfect. And now Brianna.
I would say I'm most excited to bring a new and relatively unheard student experience to the position, and it kind of goes in conjunction with it. My vision for OpFi is to take the word invest and give it more meaning than just finance, than just money.
All right, thank you. So until there's another audience question, I've got a couple more here. What is your one best skill or quality that will help you in this role, and what is your one weakness that you hope to strengthen by taking on this role? We will start with Kevin.
Okay, I think one of my biggest strengths and would definitely be to accomplish things on my platform. Being a science rep this year, I set out those goals for a reason, and I had plans to achieve each of them. And if I didn't, then I knew how to find an answer for it. So I think for me, having that ability to plan and to tackle each of your different goals and projects, I think would be my biggest strength that I would add to this role. And as for weakness, I do tend to take on a little too much, and at times it does bite me a bit. But yeah, that would definitely be my weakness.
Perfect, thank you. Brianna?
I would say my biggest strength is my empathy. I think it allows me to get to know people and to form really genuine working relationships, which is completely necessary as a VP. And I would say one of my greatest weaknesses is self-doubt.
Thank you. And Rio?
I'd say my greatest strength for the role is actually my governance experience from being speaker. You learn a lot in that role where you deal with policy stuff from development to actually applying it. My greatest weakness, however, is definitely that for a lot of my time out in university, I was kind of unengaged until I joined the SU. So there are a lot of gaps in my knowledge regarding stuff like the SU businesses that we've mentioned. So,
cool. Thank you. We'll move on to our next audience question.
Hi. First off, you guys are doing a great job. And I just wanted to ask, what do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions about the SU, and how will you attempt to resolve that if elected as OpFi?
Perfect. Thank you for your question. We'll start with Brianna.
I think the biggest misconception is that they're distant from students and that nothing you do within those doors affects students on an individual basis. However, that's completely the opposite of what's true. And to correct that, essentially, is my entire platform. That's what I intend to do. I intend to reach the people who have no clue what we're doing behind those doors and show them that it's something that really benefits them every single day.
Thank you, Brianna. Rio?
So I'd say the biggest misconception of the SU is that we're just a rubber stamping body that kind of just hangs out and does nothing. That is one thing I have definitely heard in all the people, from all the people I've spoken to. One way we could definitely address that is kind of starting to promote and build on our current businesses, like the Den. Like, people know it's an SU business, but how much does it actually do for students? It's something like that we could actually talk about. There are a lot of ways we could make the message stick. Something like telling a story about something cool that happened at the Den, but that's definitely one way we need to approach it.
Perfect. And now Kevin.
Yeah, I definitely agree with your guys' answers as well. It's yeah, you kind of get that impression of the SU that it's it's just a bunch of students that got elected that are sitting there just collecting a paycheck or something like that. But of course, it's very different than that. And being involved this year as a representative, it's definitely it's eye-opening in a sense almost, and getting to know how the organization works. And I think for me, how to address that, Patrick, would be to really get more students involved and interested in the organizational side of things. Yes, we do have great outreach right now with pet therapy or clubs or all that stuff, but getting more people involved with committees and student large positions, I think, would be how I would address that.
Perfect. Yeah, that was everyone. So I'll ask another question. Have you ever chaired a meeting in the past or had any experience with Robert's Rules of Order? And if so, just kind of explain what that experience was. And we'll start with Rio.
Oh boy, howdy, do I have experience with Robert's Rules. As speaker, that is my jam, so that is all I'll really say on that one.
All right. Kevin?
Yeah, for me, although I might not have 3 years like Rio, this past year is definitely, I've learned a lot from Rio, so I'm learning from the best here. And yeah, I've been able to put that to practice by actually chairing the meetings for my task force that I established this year for the Science Undergrad Research Symposium that I'm organizing. It's a huge undertaking, and yeah, that we use Robert's Rule of Order in that as well. So it's yeah, it's been a good experience. I've learned a lot this year from that.
All right. And now Brianna.
I actually don't have direct experience with Robert's Rules of Order, but I have competed in debate and I have competed in Model UN, and we have very similar procedures for how we chair and how we set our agendas. So I'm familiar with the process. I think I just need a little detail tweaking.
Perfect. Thank you. And then, unless there's another audience question, I'll just ask another one. What song will you play on CJSW on the VPSL and the VP OpFi's radio show that they host every week on Thursdays at 11:30? Make sure you tune in, but not this week because we're not there this week. Next week. What would be your first song that you would play? I think we'll start with Kevin.
For me, I'm a huge Beatles fan, so Here Comes the Sun because it's a morning song. So yeah.
All right. Brianna?
Sort of inspired by Kevin, I think getting people pumped, starting with Walking on Sunshine would be pretty nice.
Okay. And now Rio.
Man, this is hard. I'm a real music guy, so am I allowed to look at my phone and just like quickly pull out this random song? Yes, no. Maybe
Do you want to sing it for us?
Oh,
you can
man.
sing like a line for us. I won't let you pull out your phone, but
Well, the problem is I don't know which song though. Like a few too many. Man,
no.
way to put me on the spot like this. Hillary, you're killing me here.
30 more seconds.
30 more seconds. Oh my god. You know what? I'm gonna go with a song that's been my favorite for a few years. Rise Against Paper Wings. It's kind of just about like leading your own life and charging forward despite like random stuff that happens. So, like this question, I'm just gonna point out.
Perfect. Thank you. So that kind of brings me to the end of my questions. Unless there's any more audience questions, I will get. We have another audience question. Okay.
Okay. So, my name's Tina again. If unsuccessful in this election, what are your plans moving forward with either involvement with the SU or something in your own lives?
So what are your plans if you're unsuccessful in the elections? We will start with Brianna.
If unsuccessful, I still have 6 courses to complete, so that's my top priority. And I would continue my full-time job with my domestic violence support company, and I'll still be very fulfilled. It just won't be my number one.
Rio.
If unsuccessful, I am graduating, so who knows? But I do intend to go to grad school for public policy and eventually go to law school. I do see some good that can be done through those. So.
Perfect. And Kevin?
Yeah, I think if unsuccessful, I still want to be very engaged on this campus. So still being involved with clubs, continuing on with my position at the Wellness Center and managing the volunteers there, continuing to work with the symposium team that I was talking about before. I'll serve as an advisor and support for the science representative that sits on it next year. And in addition to that, yeah, looking for new opportunities and continuing on my research as well. Thanks.
Awesome. And we have another audience question. Whenever you're ready.
Hi, my name is Asad Ali Bik. You guys are doing a great job, by the way. My question is, how do you guys plan to reach the students that may not care about your position or the SU as a whole?
How do you plan to reach students?
Just to add to that, aside from like surveys or online little things.
Okay. How do you plan to reach students? And we will start with Rio.
So, it's going to sound a little like buzzwordy, but really the only way to do it is to beat the pavement and have actual reps and people within the SU go out and speak with people. With community gargantuans like Mr. Sagar Grawal, who I saw earlier but has now disappeared, it's a lot easier because he's the type of person that people want to be around and speak with. And having that type of person around and having people do that kind of work is the best way to get people involved.
Okay. We'll go over to Kevin.
Yeah, I think for me, how I'd reach students, and I guess in the context of OpFi, it'd be more about like when we're developing policies and doing things like in regards to building management. I think for that, it's really down to consultation, and I love talking with students, so it'd be really nice to have like maybe focus groups or potentially using the President's Consultative Task Force as a medium for that as well. So yeah, that would be my approach to that.
And now Brianna.
This is my entire fourth platform point, is reaching students that aren't currently reached. And in conjunction with our new President Sagar's idea for a town hall, I think that's a perfect combination for my idea to replace Color Night with a celebration with the students at large.
Okay. Got a couple more questions. Okay. Yeah. Next audience question.
I have like an individual question for each person. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll try to keep it quick. Yeah.
Okay. I'll start with Kevin. Since you're currently a science rep, if you're in the position, how will you work to make sure that you're not overstepping the reps next year?
Yeah, I think, well, actually, I've had a good example with Tina here. For those of you who don't know, each of the elected officials gets put in like a team, or you get assigned a mentor essentially. And for me, it's Vice President Tina Miller, who's the VPA, and watching her and how she kind of handles us as science representatives has really, I think, been a good example. You have to really act more as a mentor and to kind of use your experiences to help them and let them do the hands-on work. You remember, you're there to support them in their initiatives, although they might not align with yours. Yeah, you just want to be the best support you can in regards to how to do things, but also as people as well. We're all humans, so yeah, I think that'd be my approach to that.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, and this one's for Brianna. I'm just wondering how you plan on getting the executives, SLC, and OpFi on board with cutting Color Night, because it's not just a one-person decision.
Oh, definitely not. It might even require a referendum. I would like to get us all together. I'd like for them to hear me out slowly, calmly. I listen to everything they have to say, and I've thought this through for over a year now. I think I got a response for anything anyone could have a concern with.
And then, Rio, can you just speak a little bit more about what your plan is with engaging Indigenous peoples and Indigenous governance?
All right. I'm really glad you asked that question because it's my favorite thing to talk about. So I have 3 ideas that we can use to start engaging and incorporating Indigenous perspectives to the SU. One is an Elders in Residence program where we have elders available to students through the SU, and they can give talks at events, walk around campus, just like do kind of open office hours. Another one is an Indigenous representative. After speaking with a few clubs, one thing I've heard is that they would be okay with an appointed representative, although they would like for it to be elected. And a third one would be an Indigenous working group. This one's a little more logistically difficult because there are only about 400 Indigenous students on campus, and a lot of them are grad students or parents. So that would be a lot harder to work with. And I think those are the 3 best ways we can start to incorporate Indigenous perspectives. And as long as we don't think one and done is okay, I think it's the best way that we can do it.
All right. We'll move on to our next audience question.
All right, as we know, our current VP OpFi is here, and our ex-VP OpFi is right there. Okay, hey, what's up, bud? So my question to you 3 is, considering the job that these 2 have done the past 2 years, phenomenal, by the way, what is one quality from each of them that you'd like to steal?
So what is one quality that you would like to continue that myself or my predecessor Brandon had. We'll start with Kevin.
So quality, not platform point, right? Okay. I think one thing I've learned from both of these two gentlemen here are it's the amount of work that goes into it. Their work ethic is second to only each other, and I think that's something that I think every exec should really try to strive towards. And that's something that I would really want to continue on, is just to give it everything you've got. And it's an opportunity that you have and that not many get. And the amount that you could do with it is amazing. So you really want to, capitalize on that. So.
Brianna?
Well, from what I know of your schedule, Ryan, I think you have incredible time management skills and you operate extremely well under intense amounts of stress. So I wouldn't mind some of that. As for Brandon, I heard you give your platform pitches to my economics classrooms and you command a stage very well. You're very charming and I wouldn't mind some of that either.
And Rio?
One thing I would definitely like from both of you would be to learn a little bit more about like your way to handle things diplomatically. Personally, I try to be diplomatic, but there are times where sometimes you just don't. So that's something I'd like to take from both of you.
Perfect. Thank you for that question. Our next audience question.
Hello. I have a general question for the three of you is, if you had to cut one thing from your platform, just for any reason you have to cut one thing, what would it be?
All right, and we will start with Brianna on this one.
That's really hard. I would be very, very, very sad to cut it, but I would cut my fourth platform point about engaging with students because I'm prioritizing how the funds they've already invested are going to be used, and that's the first three.
All right, Rio?
I'd be most disappointed to cut my governance point about acclamations. It's definitely something worth discussing, but at the same time, if it's not so much of an issue that doesn't need to be dealt with right away, then a future VP Alpha can take it on for them.
Okay, and now Kevin.
Thanks. Yeah, for me, I think it would be the pilot program in terms of addressing food insecurity. Although it'd be really nice to add extra programs and kind of to like further add to our services, we got to take care of what we have first and then try to build off of that. So if I had to come something, it would probably be that. But I really want to do it though.
Awesome, perfect. Thank you so much for those questions. So this is going to bring us into our last segment. We'll close our audience questions now. And I'll get each candidate to give kind of a 2-minute closing remarks. And yeah, so we'll start with Rio on this one.
All right, so real quickly, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming out. It's very important that people participate in our democracy, especially when we've had a high of 26% voter turnout. So it's very important that students come out and they learn about the people that are running for the office and what they want to do. As I've said, I've worked for SLC for the past 3 years. I would be glad to continue to serve in another role. So please just remember to keep it Rio as you go into voting days. So.
Perfect, thank you, Rio. We'll move on to Kevin.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so I'd like to say thank you to everybody for coming out, and for everyone watching online, thank you for watching. Yeah, no, it's election time, so it's really exciting. I'm really excited to be in this race and to be a part of it. Make sure you guys check out not only our platforms, but everybody else's, and keep yourselves informed. Yeah, I look forward to the rest of the race, and thank you. And remember, it's got to be KD, guys.
Awesome, and and Brianna.
So I'll be polite and thank you again for coming. Also, thanks for your patience. I'm not going to rehash my platform because it's plastered everywhere already. So I would just like to say that I'm really excited to be running again. It's very hard, but I love this. I'm very passionate about it, and it's why I'm here again. And I'm really excited for the opportunity to bring something new to the SU.
Perfect, thank you. All right, and now I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and listening to our VP Operations and Finance candidates. There are upcoming forums all week. They run 12 to 1 right here every single day this week, as well as there's a variety of different faculty representative forums as well. So make sure you talk to your faculty reps within your faculty and figure out when those are. And voting days are March 6th to 8th. You can find all candidates' platforms on the SU's website, su.ucalgary.ca, and voting days open March 6th to 8th. So thank you again for coming. Oh, and thank you to our candidates. You guys did really great.